All right. So what are we going to talk about today?
We are talking about one of your favorite things, growing your influence. 7 ways to grow your influence in order to have more influence at work.
Yeah, and we thought about this because after last week's video, we had about 3 days of recording.
We did.
We had to record 30,
Yep.
15-minute videos, about 7.5 hours. And we were doing that on this book here, Change Happens, Leading Yourself and Others Through Change.
Mm-hmm.
And we were making a online video course for that. And one of the chapters in the 14th section, there's 15 sections in that book with 2 chapters per section, so 30 chapters. So basically chapter 27 is about becoming a change champion. And in there we talk about these 7 ways to grow your influence and relative to change in the book. But here we're just going to talk about it relative to increasing your influence because they're principles. They apply at home, they apply at work. We're going to talk about it in a work context today.
Yep.
All right.
I like that.
So that's where it come from.
All right. Sounds good. Let's dig in.
All right. So the first way, again, there's 7 ways to grow your influence at work. And they're common sense, but as I often say, a lot of things that are common sense are not common practice. It's common sense means we should understand we should do these things. That's the way we talk about common sense, but we talk about it, use the word the wrong way. I mean, that's what we mean when we say something's common sense. We mean anybody should understand they should do it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually doing it often requires uncommon sense, a higher level of intellectual capacity and thinking. So the first thing we should do is, you might not like this one, but it'll increase your influence. Oh, we need to say, I got to leave them hanging for a second, Rhea. We got to leave them hanging because you got to know life's better when you have more influence.
Yeah.
That's one of the common sense things.
Sure.
Anybody would know that. If I have more influence, my life's going to be better. And increasing your influence increases your options. Anybody would also know whenever I have more options, life is better.
Mm-hmm.
So relative to at work, number 1 out of these 7 things is do more than expected. You gotta go above and beyond and do more than is expected. Don't just do the bare minimum. There's a lot of people, they try to do the bare minimum to get paid the most. And there's a lot of bosses out there that try to pay people the least to get the most.
So I remember, it's been quite a few years ago, but I was working as a temp with the hope that I could get a permanent position in the organization, right? So I was working to get more influence because, when you're in a temporary or possibly a temporary to hire position, you need more influence with people it's kind of like a trial run, right? It's kind of like a trial run to get to see how you work and who you are as a person before they make a decision on whether to offer you a full-time permanent position. So there was the lady who I was sort of filling in for was going out on maternity leave. So at the time she expected to be coming back, but potentially, we all knew this was her second child and we all knew there was a possibility that she might decide to stay home, and she was upfront about that. So I was working hard on my influence, and it was a doctor's office, and we had a patient come in, and the patient was about an 8 or 9-year-old little boy. And, we put them in the room waiting on the doctor to come in. And in a few minutes, mom, kind of busts out of the exam room and she's rushing the little boy down the hall. She's like, bathroom, he's about to be sick. And they did not make it.
Uh-oh. That ain't good.
And, when you're doing more than expected, who volunteers to clean up the mess? And, it was not easy to do.
There probably wasn't a lot of people ready to.
No,
do
I
more
wasn't having to fight for the opportunity to do more than expected. Pretty much everybody was like, can't we just leave it for the cleaning lady? So, but I wanted to do more than expected. But you know what? When the lady decided not to come back from maternity leave, I got the position.
That's good stuff. So one way to understand, the power of doing these 7 things to increase and grow your influence is think about the opposite. We're thinking about right now, do more than expected.
Sure.
What's the opposite of that? Do less than expected. It was pretty obvious that's not going to increase your influence. And whether you're a boss or not, whether you're in a formal level of leadership position, authority, whether or not you're in that position, even if no one reports to you, you can understand this stuff the way we're teaching it to you. But you got to be proactive. Often what will happen is you do more than expected. Folks going to say you sucking up, you brown nosing, all these things that people say. They say a lot worse than that. And that's average people trying to keep you average. And you can allow it to happen or you not allow it to happen. And in my career, I had a lot of people always telling me all that kind of stuff. But what I knew I was doing was just doing a good job.
Mhm.
And that's another way to look at these 7 things. These things are just about doing a good job, being a good person, having a high degree of character as you execute and carry out your work. So that's number 1, do more than expected. And it's easy. I mean, it's easy because all those people who are doing less than expected, they just create space for you to shine. Right? That's
Yep.
what happened with you in that
Yeah,
scenario.
I got to shine. Nobody else wanted to step up. And trust me, that was a nasty opportunity, but it was an opportunity.
Yep. So let's talk about number 2.
Number 2, do it before it's required. If you know something needs to be done, do it before you have to do it, right? If you know there's a deadline coming up, beat the deadline, right? Do it before you have to. Don't wait to have to be required to do it, or somebody has to ask you, or worse, ask you again to do it.
Yeah. So do more than expected was number 1.
Mhm.
Number 2 is do things before it's required.
Yeah,
Which is really before it's expected, right?
definitely.
And so do it before you're voluntold. I mean, it's a big deal. I got an example of that where when I was a lean manufacturing consultant, and it relates to another bullet we're gonna give you later. I think number 6, but I'm gonna.
Well, we hadn't covered 3, 4, 5.
I
yet.
know, but it relates to 2. But when we get to 6, I'm gonna be able to add a little more to it.
Okay.
So what happened was we were doing a 5S event, standardization and organization. We were actually cleaning a paint department. The paint department was nasty though, and it was a liquid paint department.
Yeah.
The walls were dirty. Everything was dirty and dusty, and it was just nasty. And we were cleaning that entire plant, 150,000 square feet. We were painting walls. We were painting ceilings. We were painting everything. And I was the lean manufacturing manager, so I reported to the plant manager. So I messed up and didn't have the paint in time. On Thursday morning, we were going to paint, but I wasn't able to get the paint. I went to get it, but they didn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go shop around, find it. It was about a 2-hour trip to go get it and return. When I did find it, when I got back, it was nearly quitting time.
Yeah.
After all that chaos of the day of me trying to find paint and all that kind of stuff, because we need a lot. We needed like several 5-gallon buckets worth of paint, maybe even 4 or 5. I don't remember. It was a lot, and it was specific kind and color. So anyway, I get the paint back. Everybody's leaving for the day, and I'm the manager. I'm on salary, but talking about doing it before it was required, because we didn't get to do it Thursday. Guess when we were going to do it? Friday. That's what it would have been required, since we didn't have it on Thursday. The next work day was Friday.
Right.
But I over delivered. I did more than expected, but also did it before it was required. What I did was I put on the Tyvek suit at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever time it was. Everybody had left. We had a second and third shift, but all the team members were on the first shift, so they were going home at the end of the first shift. But I put on my Tyvek suit and my mask, and I started painting. Had a spray gun, and air sprayer, and so actually it was airless. It was a pneumatic or some kind of pump, but it was an airless sprayer. Anyway, so I painted. So I did everything they were supposed to do on Friday. I did it on Thursday night. What that means is I painted from 4 or 5 Thursday afternoon until 7 o'clock Friday morning. So I worked over 24 hours that day. So I did much more than was required. Actually, if I'd asked my boss, he probably would have told me not to do it. But I didn't ask because I was over delivering for the team.
You didn't ask me either.
Yeah, I just said I ain't gonna be home for a while. You didn't know that meant the next day after you went to work.
I did. I was like, I was wondering if you were just like, what are you? I mean, is that really important? But was.
We're talking about this. Do it before it's required. Do more than is expected. We're talking about in the context of influence
at work.
At work, and I gained a lot of influence with that entire team of people. I was leading them through change, and that's why this is in the book. Change happens, but I was leading them through change, and a lot of people don't like change. There's a lot of resistance, so I built a lot of trust with a lot of people, and I didn't have to go tell everyone what I did. All those people on the team told the entire plant of about 200 people. I mean, it just spread like wildfire, and I didn't do it for that reason. I did it because I had let the team down. Friday was when we were supposed to present our final presentation at about 2 o'clock or something.
Right.
And so they were going to have to paint, and then we were going to have to do our presentation. Everything was going to be a day behind because I didn't have the paint. So I did more than was required. I got tons of influence, and that's what all this is about, increasing your influence. So the next event, I had more people, supporting me in the plant. And during, just so you know, during those 3 years, as a lean manager, I led the facility along with the plant manager and all the other managers and everybody. But it was my job to lead the change, transformation. We went from minus 3% gross profit margin to plus 35% gross profit margin.
Wow.
And a lot of that was because I had a lot of trust with people. I did all these things, and some people hated me. That's the way it is when you're leading change. But the majority of people were on board with me, and I had a lot of influence with them.
We all like change when it's our idea, but we don't always like it when it's somebody else's idea.
We don't, do we, Rhea?
All right. You want to talk about number 3?
Number 3 is the third way to increase your influence at work, grow your influence, is be confident and humble.
At the same time.
At the same time. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and it's called humility.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't say this last time, but I need to back up. We're talking about doing things before it's required.
Sure.
The opposite of that is doing it after it's required.
Yeah.
What's that going to do for your influence if you do the opposite?
No.
There's a lot of people out there doing that, though. That's why it's easy. These things, they seem simple. They're common sense, but they ain't common practice. It's easy for you to separate yourself. So when we're talking about being confident and humble, the opposite of that is being
confident, arrogant.
Yeah, cocky and arrogant.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of being confident, I'm arrogant. I'm cocky, arrogant. Instead of being humble, I'm cocky. Right. Just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So be confident, be humble. What that means is, even if it's your idea, you don't run around taking credit for it. You don't run around, even if you know stuff other people don't know, you don't point them out for not knowing. You don't try to look like you're special. I mean, when I was leading those teams, a lot of times I did know because I had led a lot of teams. I had the most experience because I was on every team. I was leading every team, right? And I had done this before and been through it before over and over and over. And eventually, I had logged 11,000 hours leading those kind of teams. So it would have been real easy. I mean, I had seen the consultants before who did what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them were cocky and arrogant. I mean, they would come in wearing their fancy white shirt and their fancy gold watch and the shiny shoes. And they come in kind of arrogant, like they know it all. And it's obvious that they're there to just direct everybody on what to do. And there's a lot of folks that do that. That's probably more the norm for consultants, but that ain't what I did. I wore blue jeans and I had a t-shirt on. I had gloves and rags hanging out in my pocket. And, that's the humble piece. The way I exhibited confidence was helping everybody else succeed. Not just run around tell them what to do, you're doing it the wrong way and all that sort of stuff, but actually confident that we could do it. That was the first thing. Was on Monday when I come in, I had full confidence.
Right.
I say I've led 50 teams like this, 100 teams like this, and every single one of them kill it. I remember that was what I'd always say. I say, we gonna kill it. Y'all may not know it, you may not like it, you may not want to do it on Monday, but by Friday, you're gonna kill it. And it ain't because I'm special. It's because you guys know a lot, and we're going to learn how to work together, why we need to work together. We're going to make your jobs better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask you a lot of dumb questions because I'm kind of dumb. I'm doing the opposite, right? I'm being humble. I ain't trying to say I know everything. I'll just tell y'all what to do. Y'all go do it, and we have a great success. That's a lot of difference in there, right?
Yeah. And that brings us to number 4, admit mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. There's no doubt about that. It's just part of being human. But your influence doesn't increase because you're perfect, right? Because nobody is perfect. So that's not, being perfect isn't what increases influence, particularly with your boss. Your boss knows that you're going to make mistakes, but when you can own those mistakes, take responsibility for correcting them and acting to fix them, and most importantly, take responsibility for learning from them so that they don't happen again.
Yeah, the opposite of the admit mistakes is hide your mistakes.
Yeah, and that doesn't increase your influence because sooner or later, those mistakes are going to find you.
Yeah, so I got a really good story about this one, Rhea. This was way back in the old days, back in the 1900s. So it was around 1989, 1990.
Back in the winds?
Way back. So I was born in 69. So this happened in 89 or 90. And so I was 20 or 21 years old. So I had a lot of learning to do, but I worked the night shift, which means the third shift. My regular hours were 11 to 7. So admitting this mistake probably saved my job. I mean, somebody would have told on me at some point
Uh-oh.
because it would have been found out because it was funny to us, so people would talk about it. Anyway, what happened was we were always horse playing like the young folks do at work, especially the blue collar folks. Always horse playing. So I was working in a manufacturing facility. I was operating a CNC lathe, and we had the tool that goes into the insert goes in the tool. The insert's what actually touches the steel and cuts it. It's real heavy, like lead almost. It's carbide and got different coatings and that kind of stuff. So it's real dense, real heavy. So it's a little triangle, about 1 inch triangle piece of metal. And one of my buddies, he was walking through the plant, and he was probably like 20, 30 yards away. And it was, it was late at night, and I had a used one. The insert was no good anymore.
Oh, okay.
So he's walking down, and there's a big panel wall beside him, quality lab.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just going to be stupid, really, what I was doing, but I was trying to scare him with what I thought I was doing. So I was going to throw this insert and hit that wall because the wall was huge. And so,
does anybody else besides me think that this story is not going to have a good ending? Like, you can drop a comment, or you can just, maybe not, maybe it's just my perspective, but I can see this is not going to end well.
Well,
okay,
it could have ended a lot worse.
I'm just saying, this is a bad idea, but okay.
So he's zipping along, walking down the aisle. I rear back and I throw this insert. As soon as I let go of it, I knew it wasn't going where I wanted it to go. And I knew exactly where it was going. And it didn't hit him, but if it would have hit him, I mean, it could cut him.
I thought you were about to say it hit him in the head. Oh.
No, it could have, but it didn't because it didn't go where I wanted it to go. It went pretty close to him, but where it actually went was to about a 4-foot square window in that building. It went straight into the window. It hit it and broke it, cracked it. It knocked out a little chunk. It didn't break and fall out of the frame. It just broke a little piece out about the size of that insert out of the center and cracked. And for a split second, I was like, I ain't saying nothing.
Oh,
because the guy didn't hear it, so it didn't scare him because it didn't hit the right thing, hit the wrong thing. Went past that building, hit that window.
How hard did you throw it? I mean, are you like Superman? Like you're
no, but it's really heavy and it's light and it wasn't that far. It'd be like throwing a rock. You can throw it pretty hard. But this thing, anyway. So for a split second, he didn't notice it. He kept walking. So didn't nobody know it at that moment but me.
Oh.
And I hadn't read all these books. I didn't know about integrity.
Oh.
I mean, I knew about integrity, but I didn't have it like I do today. Today, I owned up to it instantly. But that day, I owned up to it, but I had thought about it first. I was like, am I going to say anything? I don't know, because nobody knew. I kind of eased back around to my machine and kept working because there's not a lot of people on that shift at night. So people moving around. And I knew actually that window, because I said I threw it past the quality building. It didn't have any windows I was trying to hit, but it went right past it. And across the aisle on the other side was a supervisor's office. That's actually where the window was, in the supervisor's office. And we changed them around, so I'm having trouble remembering which one it was, because it was a supervisor's office at one time, but I don't remember if it was quality lab or supervisor's office at that moment, but it was a different building. So anyway, I finally go find we didn't have a actual supervisor on our shift. We had a lead person. That was our supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and found the lead person, told him what I had did, because I was worried about getting fired for that.
Yeah.
Because that was
probably an expensive window.
Yeah, because they was thinking too I could have hit Terry or something like that. So anyway, I went and told him. He said, he's going to have to turn it in. He don't know. I told him, I said, I'll pay for it.
Well, that was good.
I said, I threw the insert. I broke the window. I know there's consequences. I'll pay for it. And at that time, I was always in lots of trouble. So I thought, well, they might take this opportunity to terminate me, because I had been in trouble. I stayed in trouble back then, those days. And so anyway, I go home. I'm asleep. I got to come in the next evening. I get there, and he says, we talked to them, and they're going to just let you pay for the window, and you need to straighten up. So I got out of that one, Rhea, but I admit my mistake.
So to be clear, admitting your mistake is what can increase your influence, not breaking windows on the third shift.
Yeah, but see, I turned it into a positive, though.
Yeah, you did.
Even though I made a mistake, admitting it was a positive.
Mm-hmm. taking ownership.
and then saying I'd pay for it and all that. I leveraged it to
Right.
increase. It could have cost me though.
It could have. And that's the thing, when we admit mistakes, a lot of times we want to hide them because we're like, well, what could it cost me?
Yeah.
And so, but it's going to cost you a lot more if you do try to hide it.
Yeah. If you lose the trust.
Right. You're going to lose trust. So then you've got a double withdrawal.
That's right. So
All right.
I had to tell him.
We got to move on.
I got that one right, Rhea. Except throwing the insert.
Number 5, volunteer to help others. This absolutely will increase your influence with a high impact leader, because a high impact leader is responsible for accomplishing the mission, right? Accomplishing the goals. And a team that works well with each other, that is performing well with one another and has good teamwork, is going to be much more likely and much more effective in accomplishing those goals, right? The work that you actually have to do. I mean, you just think of a football team or a basketball team, and if they don't work with each other, then they cannot be successful and they can't win the game, right? And so when you volunteer to help your coworkers or help your boss, even,
If you're helping your coworkers, you're helping your boss.
You are. That's absolutely
They
true.
want some teamwork to happen.
But that will increase your influence with a high impact leader every single time, because they will see you as a player who makes other players more valuable.
Yep. So just volunteer to help anybody. You know, a lot of people say don't volunteer for nothing, but those people just stand in the side so you can get all the influence. So that's what you need to do. So the sixth way to grow your influence at work: take more responsibility. And you know, I've got a couple of stories. I took responsibility, which allowed me to admit the mistake, right?
Right.
But with the paint, I took responsibility.
Sure.
Because see, taking responsibility was, I had called them before and told them I needed those, however many gallons of paint it was back then, how many buckets. And they told me, okay, it'd be there on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
So I had planned ahead. Thursday morning when I drove over to pick it up, everything would have been fine. There was only one problem. Somebody else working there had sold the paint to somebody else, because the guy working there.
Oh, so they double sold it.
Yep. So see, it'd be real easy to transfer responsibility.
Sure.
To them. I didn't get mad with them. I didn't get angry and all that sort of stuff. Again, I had never read all these books at that time. This was before 2008 when I started reading every day. But the thing is, I took responsibility, because how was that my fault? Well, my fault is if I'd planned to have it on Wednesday or Tuesday, I would have had time to adjust. I still would have had it for Thursday. So I just took responsibility, carried the load on me that I should have planned better. Right? I learned not to trust those folks. So next time, that was never an issue. I always had to paint a couple of days in advance, so I had some room.
Okay.
But I want to share with you, I got a tip number 22 out of this book here, Blue Collar Leadership Toolbox Tips, 60 micro lessons to maximize your influence. And I don't know if they can see this here, but that's a lesson. It's pretty quick and simple. You can read it in 45 seconds to a minute. And tip number 22 is actually about responsibility.
Okay.
And so
goes right along with what we're talking about.
Yes, I just want to read it. They'll get some value, but you can also understand what this is.
Okay.
So
should I time you? You said 60 seconds.
No, I might have to talk when I'm reading it, but I'm gonna try to just read it.
Okay.
And so we can go back and forth if you want. Or
no, go ahead.
All right. So toolbox tip number 22. And let me just say, this is a book. It could help you as an individual, but we have a lot of clients who actually use this book. They use these tips. Every meeting. I got one client, actually, Bill Malik. He's the city manager for the city of St. Peters, Missouri, up near St. Louis. They have about 400 something employees, but he's told me before, every meeting that he attends where he's speaking, he reads one of these tips. It doesn't matter who's there. He reads one of these tips. And so people use them for kickoff safety meetings or startup meetings in the morning. Just a little reminder reminder to engage with folks. But let me read it to you, Rhea. Here we go. Toolbox tip number 22. If we want to climb to the next level and beyond, we should take more responsibility. The quickest way to increase our influence is to get results. And then there's a section here, why it matters. When we accept more responsibility, we gain more influence with those who are responsible for moving the organization forward. Next section, what we do. We share our ideas openly and ask to implement them. We look for opportunities to accept and take more responsibility. We gain experience from the additional responsibility. We become more valuable because of the experience. Next section, what we don't do. We don't avoid responsibility. We don't look for ways to do less. We don't keep quiet when we have an idea because we're afraid we'll be asked to implement it.
Mm.
We don't say, I'm just here to get a check, or I'm just here to do my 8 and hit the gate.
Ooh, yeah.
And then there's a section here with a bad example, or a couple, some of them have. Standing on the sidelines when things go wrong. Blaming others for not providing information we could have asked for. Blaming others for doing what we should have prevented them from doing. Letting others learn the hard way when we could have shown them an easier or better way.
Mm.
And then there's a think about this section. Here I got a quote from Jocko Willink, U.S. Navy SEAL commander. You may have heard of him before. He wrote a book called Extreme Ownership, which is all about taking responsibility. He says, total responsibility for failure is a difficult thing to accept, and taking ownership when things go wrong requires extraordinary humility and courage. And then there's a section here, ask yourself, just to provoke thought and raise awareness. What can I do to accept more responsibility at work, at home? How and where will my influence increase when I do?
Mm.
And then there's another section, nothing's written there, it's just for notes. It says, what do you think?
Yeah, I like that.
So there's volume 1, and then up here behind me is volume 2. So we got 2 of these, 120 micro lessons on how to maximize your influence intentionally.
Love it. Okay. So talk about number 7 and then we'll wrap it.
So the 7th way you can grow your influence at work, accept less credit and more blame. Take more blame.
That one kind of goes counterintuitive, doesn't it? Like, I don't think a lot of us naturally gravitate to, ooh, let me take more blame when things go wrong.
Yeah, you can if you ain't really secure in yourself. You can if you don't have a high degree of character. You're going to do right the opposite. And you know, I didn't say it, but we was talking about take more responsibility. The opposite of that is avoid responsibility. We're talking here about accept less credit and take more blame.
Right.
The opposite of that is take credit and blame more.
And blame more.
Now, who would you want to work with? The person that gives you credit when things go right, or the one who takes credit when things go right, even if you did it. There's a lot of people like that out there.
Yeah.
They just gonna run around, get all in front of everybody, and look at me, I did it, even though they didn't do it. They're gonna find the boss at the break room while they get a soda and tell them what they did back there in that department. They didn't do it; somebody else did it.
And you never increase your influence with someone when you blame them. Like, that's just like, think of it from your perspective. You've never had someone get mad and yell and blame you, and you thought, man, I like and trust you a whole lot more now. It doesn't work that way.
Yep. Like when I was leading the lean teams, something went wrong. It didn't matter who did it. It don't matter if I was around when it happened or I wasn't. Don't matter if I was involved in making a decision to do it or not. I always took the blame, so they could just carry on with the mission.
Yeah.
I mean, I was the leader. I wasn't a formal authority leader. No, I didn't even work in the companies when I was out consulting, you know, from 2008 to 2012. So accept less credit. It's going to be okay. Your influence is going to increase, and take the blame. It's going to be okay. Your influence is going to increase. And if your influence doesn't increase when you're taking the blame, you probably got a bad boss. You might need to make some changes. But while you're there, these 7 things will help you increase your influence. And when you increase your influence, you're going to have more options. Who's going to get the raise? Person with the most influence or somebody else? Who's going to get the promotion? Person with the most influence or somebody else? Influence is king, real.
It is.
And you develop your influence.
And Queen and Joker and Prince and Ace and all those too.
Yep. But you develop your influence daily, not in a day. You may gain some influence in a day, but in the big scheme, you're working on it every day. Every single thing you're doing is either building trust or creating distrust with somebody. And maybe multiple people. Somebody you're dealing with, somebody who's watching, somebody who hears about it. Every single thing you do, building trust, creating distrust. Once you start to realize that, you got to be intentional about everything that I do is going to build trust or create distrust. And you may do things you think are going to build trust, and it may be a withdrawal to somebody else. But that's how you learn about it. And we're going to wrap up today, Rhea. I want to share with them your book right here, The Ladder of Influence.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's what this book is about. Subtitle is 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. So we'll share some nuggets out of a lot of our books. If you don't know, we've got like 34 books in Counting Rhea's 6 motivational planning journals. So A lot of these videos we'll be teaching components. We don't care if you go buy the book. We're going to be fine if you never buy a book from us. But what we're trying to do is raise awareness, because we know a lot of people who follow us, they following because they want to grow.
They want resources.
So we're going to share where the information's coming from if you want to go dive into it and dig deep in it. And I got a book, I didn't bring it with me today to show you, but it's called Defining Influence. And the subtitle is Increasing Your Influence Increases Your Options. And that book plus your Ladder of Influence book, those two right there, if you really want to dive deep into how to expand your influence, we've given you 4 resources right there. All right. Is that going to be it for today, Ruth?
Let's wrap it up. Friday.
So everybody have a safe weekend. Be smart, be safe, and we'll talk to you next time. But what you got to do is keep climbing that ladder of influence.